3 more people have been arrested in Manchester in connection to Monday night's attack. Police say Salman Abedi set off an explosion at the Ariana Grande concert, killing 22 people. He recently traveled to Libya and possibly Syria.
Investigators say Abedi may have friends who are planning another attack. Meanwhile, Britain has raised its terror alert to the highest level, meaning an attack may be imminent. Soldiers have been deployed to guard public places like Buckingham Palace and Parliament.
For more, we turn to John Gearson, a professor of national security studies at King's College in London. He also previously served as the principal defense policy advisor in the House of Commons. Thank you for joining us, sir. Britain has raised the terror threat to critical. What should law enforcement be on the lookout for?
Well, I think the key is to work out whether this individual was part of a larger network, whether this is the first of a number of attacks, but most importantly, how the bomb was assembled and how far we can prepare for similar sorts of attacks. And we're going to be looking at his process of radicalization and the network that he probably belongs to. And whether that's a loose network or more directed, that remains to be seen.
So already, though, we have 3 people who have been arrested overnight, and police have been conducting raids. What is your sense of just how this investigation is progressing?
Well, the police say they have a number of useful leads, and they say it's a fast-moving investigation. Some press reports are suggesting that the first person to be arrested was one of the bomber's brothers. There's some uncertainty as to where the whole family is at the moment. And I think the big question is whether this is the inspired individual, but pretty much acting on their own, or somebody with far more technical knowledge than the recent attacks we've seen here in the UK, somebody who was able to make an improvised explosive device, possibly with nuts and bolts and nails in it to achieve the maximum carnage, and obviously appears to have been looking around, went to London a few days before the attack, possibly identifying places to attack. All these questions need to be answered pretty quickly because the political leadership, the Prime Minister and her advisors, have ramped up security and, frankly, nervousness to as high as it can get at the moment. And the public will expect some answers.
Professor, a report out by the Guardian newspaper back in February found that 16 suspected ISIS terrorists lived in a small neighborhood in Manchester close to Salman Abedi's house. Look, we've seen issues, for example, in Belgium, specifically in a community just within Brussels called Molenbeek, where many authorities knew that people with suspected ties to terrorist organizations were living. But I didn't think, and I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that that may be similar here or there in the UK. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, Britain has come to grips over the last 15 years, pretty much since 2000, when the first al-Qaeda linked plot was discovered, with the fact that there are some very marginalized communities. This individual, was 4 years old when 9/11 occurred. These are extraordinary changes. This person was 10 when the last suicide bomb attack occurred in the UK. But there are communities in London, in Birmingham, Manchester, Beeston, some other cities provincially, where there seem to be clusters, very small numbers, but clusters of individuals who are either prone to being radicalized by recruiters, and often these people have encouraged people to move to Syria and Iraq. And it is a process. The government's counterterrorism strategy has a number of components. One of them is called PREVENT, which is supposed to identify people vulnerable to radicalization. But as things stand, it's the area of counterterrorism that's performing the worst. That's not to criticize so much as to observe this is really difficult. Countries do not know how to deal with the fact that some individuals are radicalized within a matter of weeks in some cases, through personal relationships and, of course, the internet.
Wow, that's very interesting. Professor John Gearson, thank you so much.
You're welcome.